You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty, the studio at least. You got one half of the duo today. Jeremiah Morrell here with a couple of fellows that are running for governor of the state of Indiana. This is the very first governor's, we'll call it a debate or conversation or forum in the Newcastle studios of Boss Hog of Liberty. On my immediate left is Don Rainwater, and to my far left, camera far right, is Bill Levin. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So the reason we're having this conversation today is we are about 9 days away from the Libertarian Party's state convention.
Right.
And that is where the Libertarian candidates ask the delegates for their support, and we, as a party, select our candidate for governor.
Right.
You have each declared your candidacy and have been visiting with libertarians at county conventions across the state in a pilgrimage I'm very familiar with. In 2016, I was working with Rex Bell's campaign, so I thought this is a great opportunity to get you guys together and talk through why each of you feels like you're the best candidate for the state of Indiana. So just to start, I'll start with Don, and then we'll go to Bill. Just a little bio info, and introduce yourselves to the folks that are watching the live stream and listening to the podcast to get to know you a little bit, and then we'll get into some issues as we get going.
Certainly, sure. So, as you said, my name's Don Rainwater. I have been a lifelong Hoosier. I was born here, grew up on the east side of Indianapolis, graduated from Warren Central High School in 1981. Went to college for a semester, then joined the U.S. Navy and was in the Navy for 8 years and as an enlisted person. Got out of the Navy, ended up doing various things, kind of settled on software engineering as a career, have been doing that for the past 20 years. Back in 2016, I started getting really frustrated with what I saw going on, decided that it was time to get up off the couch, get involved, knew that I did not have any interest in participating in either of the old parties because I saw them as the source of what was wrong with our government system. So I looked around, found the Libertarian Party was really the embodiment of how I felt as an individual, which I think is really the foundation of libertarianism, is the individuality of all of us. So I've run for state senate in 2016 against Luke Kenley, ran for state representative in 2018, and then last year I ran for mayor of Westfield.
All right, very good. Bill.
Hi. My name is Bill Levin. I have been a resident of the state my whole life. I have been in promotions and marketing for 40 years. I have produced concerts. I was the promotions and marketing director for the Karma Record Store when we had 42 stores. This is my third run as a libertarian. I came to the Libertarian Party, personal freedom. Bottom line, personal freedom. That and the others have issues.
I need you to turn your mic just a touch towards you, Bill. There you go.
There you go.
Now you're all over it.
I'm all over it.
It cuts in and out there just for a second, but you'll be perfect like that.
And right now, I'm running for governor of the state of Indiana. I have an excellent team, and we're going to go forward and win.
All right.
That's about it.
So you ran, I do remember a race for the city council in Indianapolis.
And then state house after that.
Okay.
So this is the third run.
Third time. Very good. That's where I'm at too. I've got three under my belt.
First is always the most exciting.
Well, they are all they're all just a little bit.
We didn't know better the first time.
That's right.
It's the second and third time.
Right.
We knew better, but we're still doing it.
But you're still in. All right. So let's start. This is a unique situation because instead of being on the primary ballot, your only audience until you get the nomination is winning over the delegates to the Libertarian Party, at their convention. Instead of going to a publicly funded primary process where you've got folks showing up in May, it's a privately funded operation, and you can almost target the individuals that are going to be voting. What do you see as the banner that you're carrying? And I'll start with Bill for the Libertarian Party. If you're the Libertarian Party's nominee for governor, what's that mean to you?
Love, personal liberty, less government. I mean, right now we got to go in and chew away at all the wasteful bits and pieces that are going on. And we need to make sure that our people have proper education and have less government in their lives. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Everything is a licensing fee. I just want to go forward and do good. That's really where it's at. We need some honest politicians out there who have love in their heart and who have an understanding of the voice of the people, not the corporations. Oh,
I'm very aggressive with my water bottle.
Hey, I saw it jump out of your hand.
It's got a little spring on the bottom of it. Don, how about yourself?
Well, I'll tell you, in my opinion, the first thing that I want people to know is that I believe we have a unique opportunity here in Indiana. In 1994, the Libertarian Party of Indiana gained ballot access, and we've had it ever since, which means that unlike many of our brethren in other states, when we run for a partisan office, people see the name Libertarian next to our names on the ballot, which means that the principles and the policies that we espouse when we run are able to be identified with us as a party, which means that whoever sits at the top of the ballot is able to put out a message that all of the people down the ballot who are running are able to benefit from and expound upon. So I think it's really important for us as libertarians to be able to move that forward with things like the fact that we want to reduce the size and scope of the state government bureaucracy. We want to secure the rights of the individual. Much like Bill said, we're not as concerned with corporatism or identity politics, other than the fact that the most important identity is the identity of the individual. We are all unique. And then, thirdly, we want to make sure that people know that we want to help them keep more of their money in their pocket. And so we want to reduce taxes. And I think those three things really set the foundation for everything that a libertarian in Indiana would want to run on.
So we are in the midst of the short session of the General Assembly. And I think this cycle started with the Red for Ed movement. And at Organization Day, you saw a whole lot of folks show up at the State House wearing red shirts,
right,
and dominated the media cycle. We'll start with Don this time. I want to hear from you on the response. If you were sitting in the governor's office and you see this activism coming from the public schools, in the public school teachers, how do you read and how do you view the Red for Ed movement? And what do you say to the folks that are demonstrating at the State House?
Well, I think to a great extent, they have a lot of valid concerns, because really what they're saying is we want education back in the local school district. We want to be able to teach in the classroom, deliver to students, and not have all of the massive government oversight. And I think that in a lot of ways, whether they come right out and say it or not, what they want is a more libertarian response to education. I think one of the first things that we need to look at is eliminating iLearn. iStep and iLearn have both been complete boondoggles. We're currently spending $15 million a year. There's a 3-year contract right now, $45 million committed to a standardized test that they've already in the first year admitted, well, we still can't get it right. We still can't get the scoring correct. We really don't know what we're doing. And then they've basically held teachers harmless. And the reality is we shouldn't be using a standardized test to measure teacher performance in the first place. It's not a fair measurement. It is actually a detriment to time in the classroom that students should be learning. One of the things that our incumbent governor is currently pushing is the education of people in prison to reduce the rate of return. Pardon me.
It's a tough
recidivism.
There you go. I avoid it too because I have the same struggle.
But the reality is that if we did a better job of educating our young people in high school and giving them skills that they could actually take out and start working instead of graduating high school and feeling like they have nowhere to go because they can't afford college and they don't have a skill to go out and get a job, so they go out and get in trouble, end up in prison, then we want to train them. Well, how about we take the money that we're wasting on our K through 12 education today and focus that better and give people the opportunity to get trades, technical education. Our high school students should be able to graduate with something tangible other than a piece of paper that says that they passed a standardized test. Because here again, the standardized test is nothing more than a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've tried to highlight through the Boss Hog program is bringing folks in through the Newcastle Career Center and the trade school on this program and giving some exposure to that. And that's actually run through the local public school system here. Bill, we haven't had a chance to weigh in on the Red for Ed and the education topic. How do you see it?
Well, it's a nightmare, just like everybody else. We have to give the parents more choice. The parents don't have a say-so in this. It's down to the local communities, but the state government has too many rules for the local communities to actually get involved. So it's a catch-22 here. Less state government is definitely the issue. It's a fun mess. It's a fun mess. We need less government and more parental input into this. It's just there.
So would you have a specific response to the teachers that were rallying, or just a yes and a yes and to?
Do I think they need more money?
Well, it was money. It was wanting to be held harmless. There were a handful of different.
Right now they're paying for papers and supplies to get into this, for their own classes, which is ridiculous. The students have to pay for their extracurricular activities,
extracurriculars, books, etc.
There was one student who got a bill because he went to the counselor, and I guess there's an allotted amount of times you can go see the counselor before they start charging you. Mother got a $1,200 bill. Out of nowhere, the school called her up and said, "You got $1,200 bill." Because
this is an IPS school or an Indianapolis school?
Somewhere in Indianapolis, over in Speedway. And it was just like, how did you get that? Where did that? And they said he saw the counselor too many times. And they send a bill back. And it's like, it blew my mind. We have book fees and we don't have books. They don't have books anymore. Kids don't bring books home. They do their homework on an electronic device. But yet the parents, on top of the taxes, have book fees for books we don't get.
So, in each of your views, are there specific changes you want to see made? In Indiana, we have to provide for public education. It's in our Constitution. Is it, hey, I want the state to stop making decisions and go to school boards to make these decisions, and to teacher pay, grading, all of this is, instead of being a state responsibility, being a local school board? What's your preference?
I'd like to see the school board do it, but I'd also like to see the administration fees knocked down, because the teachers aren't getting enough. Administrators are getting ungodly six figures. When you're paying a teacher $20,000-$30,000 and you're paying an administrator $120,000, no, that's not right. Okay, it's just not right. The teachers need to be making a decent, honest wage. And administrators need to be cutting down on their end, because there's too many administrators. We have two sets of books for the schools. We have the maintenance of the buildings and all the grounds, and then we have the regular school teachers.
The wages and the headcount.
There's why do we have two sets of books? That gives you two sets of administrators.
All right.
We should have one checkbook for that and let one person decide it, rather than having double staff on that.
Anything else on the education side, Don?
Oh, I think there are a lot of things. We could probably spend an entire hour.
This could be dissected real nicely.
But there are several things that I think are really germane to the problem. We live in a state where approximately 60% of the state budget is supposedly spent on education. However, the majority of that money does not go to the classroom. If you go out and you look at the State Department of Education website, there are an inordinate amount of programs, many of them duplicitous, that are listed on the website. There's money going to many things that really aren't directly involved in educating children. We have here just recently, we find out that the state overpaid two charter schools in the vicinity of $68 million because of a lack of oversight. And our incumbent governor says, well, now that we've taken away your right to vote for the state superintendent of public instruction, and I'm going to appoint that person, well, we'll fix that. Well, the governor is responsible for appointing people to the State Board of Education. The State Board of Education is supposed to be overseeing.
That's the way that process was designed.
Exactly.
Governors have historically wanted to, because governors feel like they get judged on education, they want essentially a cabinet level person, and that's what's happening after Jennifer McCormick's term is up.
Right.
Is that it will be a governor's appointee for superintendent.
But here again, that's just one more thing in the laundry list of things, like the BMV overcharging Hoosiers, the Department of Veterans Affairs misappropriating grant money to people who work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. The fact that we had to go to the state of Georgia to get a consulting company to come in and tell the governor how to fix the Department of Child Services. Evidently, nobody in Indiana is smart enough to figure that out on their own. He had to go pay somebody in Georgia to do that. This is just another, that $68 million in those charter schools is just another indication that our state government is too big and they can't oversee themselves. And so we've got to reduce the scope and size of government, and we've got to hold them accountable. The governor, that's where the buck stops, whether he likes it or not, and he can send cease and desist orders to the media all he wants. The reality is the people of the state of Indiana should know what's going on in their government, and the government should hold itself accountable.
So, continuing to watch the news cycle and what's coming out of the State House, this last week we saw a bill that the governor's office was very interested in. It passed the House, and now this last week it passed the Senate, dealing with mobile phone use in cars. So this is a fun libertarian issue. So I'll give you guys a nice one to jump in with, and we'll start with Bill. Would you, if you're in the governor's chair and you get a bill that says, "Hey, we're going to regulate mobile phones in cars," are you signing it? And there's almost two different conversations you can have. It's okay. There's the Larry Sharp, the guy that ran for governor of New York, who says, "Well, safety is one thing, so maybe there's a safety concern," or "It's none of your business. I'm not signing it. It's what happens in my car is my car." How do you weigh in? How do you dissect that as a libertarian governor?
What's going on in my car is my car. And if I turn off my phone, I don't know where I'm going because I use Google Maps. Turn off your phone. Oh, great. And now everybody's driving in circles, going to gas station, asking for maps. It used to be free. That now costs $9.95. No way.
All right. So you're not signing?
No.
All right. Don?
Oh, I'm absolutely not signing it. If they want that, they're going to have to override the veto, because that's the slippery slope of what's the next thing that you're going to tell me is distracted driving that I can't do. Are you going to tell me that I can't stop at a McDonald's drive-through and get something to eat while I'm on the road because that might cause an accident? One of the problems that we have in Indiana, and really across the United States, is this notion that it's government's job to protect us from ourselves and to make sure that we don't do something where we might actually hurt somebody else down the road in the future by something that we do that causes some chain reaction. And that's not the way that it should work. I believe that if you really want to stop people and make them think, that you make the penalty for hurting somebody or taking their stuff really hurt. But you don't tell people, we're going to make you a criminal by doing something because you might do something wrong because you're doing that thing. And to me, the cell phone thing is one of those things.
And that's one of the conversations I've always had as a libertarian, is that anytime you have a law, you're creating violence, right? At the end of it, when you have a rule you want somebody to follow, and if they don't follow, well, then at some point a law enforcement officer has to step in, and then it's always backed by force, which becomes conflict, which can potentially become violence.
Right.
So no matter how benign your law is, at the end of the line where the rubber meets the road, you got a guy with a gun that has to enforce the politician's view, right?
Right.
I mean, the word banning is not a libertarian word. Banning anything is very non-libertarian.
All right. So another topic that's been rolling through the State House, and I think this bill may have been killed, but until the General Assembly closes, something's never dead.
Right.
But road construction and traffic safety is another issue, and the governor's office has been in discussion about supporting traffic cameras for use of safety enforcement in construction zones. Where do we stand on that one? If
the same way we feel about the ones in Carmel, and the same way we feel about the ones in Fishers. No cameras. No cameras.
No government cameras.
No, we don't need them.
Why?
Where I travel is really none of anybody's business. It's my life, my travel time, my adventure. And to be just part of somebody's data flow, no, thank you. It's none of their business what I'm doing. It's a personal freedom.
All right. No safety winning on this one, Don.
Well, here's the thing with things like this. I would want to sit down and read the bill and understand what's being proposed in the bill, and because I haven't looked at this.
Sure.
And because one of the things that I have discovered is that you can ask 3 different people who've read a bill, what does this bill do? And those 3 people will give you their individual spin on what they want you to think that bill says and what it does. My personal feeling is that government-owned, government-controlled cameras are inherently part of the problem, not part of the solution. So I would lean toward I don't want anything that can be misused by the government in a way that would reduce individual freedom.
All right. Very fair. The next topic that I want to start to dive into is criminal justice and the criminal justice system. Our studio here sits about 300 feet away from our county jail. And in Henry County, where we host the show every week, the consistent conversation has been our jail is overcrowded, like almost every other county jail is in the state. There are 91 county jails in the state. Countless times in the show, we've talked about Rush County, Decatur County, Adams County, Vigo County, Hancock County, Marion County, and now Henry County, all in the process of opening new jail facilities or building new jail facilities because the state changed their laws, saying that level 5 and level 6 felons are coming back to the counties. And the state said, well, yeah, you got to deal with them now. Prison populations have dropped at the state level, but at the counties, they are bursting at the seams, and the state gave them the tool of raising their income taxes to pay for construction of new jails. So this has been a very important issue in our community. And since it's my show, and we're 300 feet from the antiquated jail that we're going to be replacing, and my taxes just went up, we're going to have this conversation. So I want to hear from, I think we started with Don last time, or we start with Bill last time? So we'll start with Bill. What do you think?
Well, right now, I think we should get all cannabis users immediately out of jail. It's ridiculous. It's a health issue, and they shouldn't be in jail. Every single one of them that's held is held in prison for, I think it's $37,500 a year. Each one of those prisoners. Now, here's something that I discovered while doing research with our government, and this upsets me more than anything else in our government. We have 5,000 untested rape kits. 5,000 women have been brutally raped, and these kits are sitting in a shelf somewhere, and they've never been tested. This has been going on for years. We have women, we have children, we have grandmothers, we have daughters, we have aunts, we have moms who have been brutally raped in the state of Indiana, and all the evidence is sitting in one locked room, and not one person in our state has done anything about this. We have $1 billion sitting in our state right now. I think we could find the money to give these women closure. This is probably the one thing I have found out about my state that I am ashamed of. Okay? When this kind of criminal activity is going on, and they're wasting their money arresting cannabis users instead of going out and taking care of these tests to give these women closure and to prosecute the people who did these crimes. This needs to be focused on, without a doubt, above everything else, because some of those test kits are past due. They can't be used because it's been over 7 years.
And you have a 7-year statute of limitations.
Yeah, it's past the statute of limitation. I'm sorry, 7 years ago you got raped. We haven't had the time or the money to test it. How can somebody even look at a woman and tell them that? So, that's sort of what really upsets me a lot right now.
So that's the top of your criminal justice.
Well, right now, yeah. I would let go of all the cannabis people, and I would put in all those test kits straight away, because the women of this state need closure. And our state government has done zero for them.
All right. Don, on the county jail issue and the capacity or the head count.
Sure. Well, I think there's a couple of things that we need to look at. First of all, and probably foremost, there are probably folks that are sitting in jail who have committed what we categorize as nonviolent crimes, who could be sent home on home detention and relieve a lot of the population in the county jails. Obviously, as Bill said, there are folks who probably have been convicted of nonviolent offenses, whether they be drug offenses or other types of offenses where they should have never been convicted of a crime because there was no crime committed. And we need to reform our criminal justice system to refocus on real crime instead of whether somebody was caught with an ounce of pot in their car or whether somebody accidentally damaged something through no fault of their own, but because of the way a law is written, they end up in jail overnight or for several days. People who have to get back and forth to work but lose their license because they got caught driving without their seatbelt on. And so when they get their license suspended and they drive back and forth to work, they get pulled over, they get arrested for driving without a license, and they end up in jail. These are all things that we shouldn't have people sitting in jail cells for, and we need to reevaluate how we do criminal justice, because here again, if you're not a criminal, you shouldn't be sitting in a jail cell. And the reality is, from the libertarian perspective, if there's no victim, there's really no crime.
So this is the criminal justice issue, I think, probably transitions into a larger conversation about prohibition. And I think you both referenced it.
And healthcare.
Okay. All right.
Because prohibition and healthcare all go hand in hand. Let's look at Portugal. They had huge drops in crime reduction when they went full legal. Their health standards went up, their AIDS went down, communicable diseases went down. Everything leveled out well. In Washington State, when they legalized cannabis, I think murder rate went down 13%. So what we do as human beings with our body is our business. It's nobody's business outside of that, unless we are being distracted and I'm messing with your life. Unless
you're hurting somebody else, or causing harm, it's a live and let live.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first deity.
That's right. You are the Reverend.
Yeah.
Don, let's talk about prohibition a little bit.
Sure. And I think right now we have a really unique opportunity to talk about prohibition in the context of what I've heard Tony Katz call the nanny state. I like that label. And the idea that you must be 21 years old to purchase nicotine, to vape, to purchase alcohol. You got to be 21. So
that was a nice surprise. The state of Indiana was going to try to achieve that on their own, but our senator,
yes,
Todd Young and some others were able to sneak that or slip that into the spending bill last year, and we got a surprise weekend signing by President Trump of 21 years old to buy and consume tobacco.
Right. And, I think being a veteran myself, I believe that if an individual is old enough to make the decision to take up a firearm and voluntarily go 2,000 miles away to possibly make the ultimate sacrifice as a member of the military, then they should be able to make any decision that any other adult can make. If you're 18 years old and you can join the military, at 18 you should be able to buy a pack of cigarettes. At 18 you should be able to purchase alcohol and cannabis or vaping or any other adult decision that you choose to make. And the concept of prohibition here again is the idea that the government knows better than you what's best for you. And to take it a step further, really what it is the concept of collectivism. Prohibition is the idea that we need to make everybody do what we think is right for everybody. You know, the argument against cigarettes is, well, if you smoke, your health insurance cost I have to pay for. Well, I'm sorry.
Because we're in a pool, right?
Yes. You know, here again, now what we're doing is we're taking an issue of economics created by regulatory restrictions on commerce through insurance and saying that because we don't want to regulate the insurance companies, or even better, reduce some regulations so that the free market can dictate what people pay for insurance or what people pay for their health care. No, we're going to tell everybody, you need to stop smoking so that all of us can pay less for our health insurance. And so that overarching holistic problem of government engaging in social engineering comes out as, oh, you can't do this till you're 21. And I think that that's just totally counterintuitive here again, because it's collectivism. It's counterintuitive to securing the rights of the individual.
So we've seen in some states prohibition of cannabis has gone away. So Nevada, I think, is a state that has recreational, and their General Assembly or their legislature has actually tried to take another step. And this is a good question, I think, for me to, and for our viewers and the delegates that are going to be out there listening, to help see how you view government and the role of government. The state of Nevada says cannabis is legal. You can consume it. Your employer may have a policy that says, look, you can't do that where we work. You know, we employ you, and we send you for a random and you test positive, then we can end your employment. The state of Nevada says we're going to protect the people of our state and say you can't test for this. It's no longer going to be legal. So that's another one of these delicate conversations, or I want to kind of peel the onion back a little bit and say, okay, how do we side on this? Is it, as a libertarian and as the potential libertarian candidate, is it the state has no authority to get involved between a private relationship between an employer and employee, or is it the state protects the rights of people to do what they want to do? I'll start with Bill and then work over to Don.
The state is definitely providing freedom for the individual. Yes, I mean, I agree with Nevada. Insurance companies are inherently evil. You know, I have a relationship with you as a doctor and you as a nurse. Okay, there's 3 people here. I'm giving you my money. We bring in an insurance company. Now, that 2-cent aspirin just went through the tallest building downtown to get processed, because they're always the insurance buildings downtown that have the tallest buildings. So my bill went all the way through all those desks, and now it comes back that I got a $9 bill for an aspirin because 40 people handled the transaction between me and you, and they had to get their piece. Bit of a pip, isn't it?
All right. Don?
restate your question for me, if you would.
The state of Nevada
Yeah.
says you guys, the employers, you can't drug test your employees anymore,
Right.
theoretically. Is that right? Is that the proper role of government? Essentially, that's the question.
So, and to not be hokey, because I really believe this is germane to everything that we look at. You know, Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence that we have inalienable rights: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, as defined by the individual, not the state. James Madison later said that also includes property, and your property also includes your thought, what you believe. And then Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Nowhere in that statement do I believe that it says governments are instituted to protect the rights of corporations. I believe it says that the sole purpose of government is to secure the rights of the individual. And so if there needs to be a determining, an adjudication, if you will, of who has the rights in a particular case, the individual should always come first. So I would say that Nevada is perfectly within their rights to say, if I interpret that the individual has rights, then I'm supposed to secure those rights. And if we've said this is legal, then you need to show some other cause. Now, if you say as a business, we do not allow you to smoke it on the premises, and you get caught smoking on the premises, that's a little different. But the idea of drug testing, that is an invasion of the right to privacy.
Okay. All right. Then on that side, you
Yeah. My body, my choice. It's not anybody's business.
All right. Let's further talk about the power of the governor of Indiana. And I think Bill referenced it earlier with some licensing. Licensing regulation. You know, we have folks that are responsible. We have a state board of chemists. We have all kinds of government oversight. If you go to you go to your barber, or you go to a cosmetologist, they have a little slip that says that they have permission from the state to do this. Is that something that you think is an appropriate job of the state of Indiana to be regulating or licensing occupational licensing? And I think we start with Don this time. Sorry, this is the first time I've moderated a debate in a while, so it's conversational anyway. But if I skip you at all, please throw a bottle at me.
Overall,
water or beer, you choose.
Overall, I believe that occupational licensing is not the purview of the state. If you go back and you look at the guilds that were commonplace in the 1700s, 1800s, and really up until they kind of morphed into unions, those guilds basically vouched for the people that joined them. I believe that as libertarians, we believe in freedom of association. And if you want to go to a barber, obviously I don't go to a barber.
You may go very often. It could be your secret. Don.
That's true. But if you want to go to a barber that is not certified by the Indiana Association of Barbers, then that should be your choice. It is. There are a very few professions that I believe fall under the purview of government securing the rights of the individual. But based on what I've been able to see the Indiana Bar Association is its own entity unto itself. And the Bar Association regulates attorneys. The state doesn't. So if the state doesn't regulate attorneys, why do they regulate hairdressers? Why do they regulate massage therapists? These are situations, in my opinion, where the lobbyist for a group, whether it be, let's take the beauticians, okay? There are beauticians colleges all over the state of Indiana who would probably have to shutter their doors if people who wanted to be beauticians could go to another beautician, say, teach me, let me learn from you, be my mentor, let me come in here and work, and you teach me. But instead, we have state mandated education requirements where you have to go to a state-approved school in order to get a certain amount of state-approved education before you can take a state test to be licensed as a beautician. And that is an obstacle to entry into a career field, and I think that's wrong. I think there's a lot of the career fields that the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency oversees that they should not. That should be, real estate agents. Let the real estate board manage that. Let them decide. And the reality is if I want you to sell my house for me and you defraud me, then I can take that to court.
You have court to adjudicate.
Exactly.
Bill?
Ask the question again. I was following.
Occupational licensing. In the state's role.
The state is excessive with it. I mean, I have friends in the tattoo business all over the state. Their licensing is yearly. They've got the usual things that barbers have, beauticians have. And then on top of that, they have zoning. Hi, because you cut hair, because you're a barber or you're a tattoo artist, you can't be within, 200 or 500 feet of a school or a church? We have weird zoning laws here that are just ridiculous. I don't understand it at all. We also have building codes that make no sense. We are the most extensive building codes there are in the state. We need hempcrete, and that's not a building code, and our farmers are growing it. We need to bring that around. So there's 4 or 5 answers for one question.
That's very fair. Let's see. I wanted to talk about something I know you've been involved with, Bill, and that's the homelessness. Not as much of an issue here in Henry County where we're sitting, but you're from Indianapolis,
yes.
And it's definitely been a highly publicized issue in the last few years in the city of Indianapolis, and I know you've been working on that issue in the private sector. So I wanted to hear, I guess, how you view that on the private side, and any role that the governor would have or the governor's office would have combating the issue of homelessness in Indiana.
We have more homeless now in Indiana than ever before in recorded history. We go out every Saturday. When I say we, I mean Hearts in Hand Homeless Outreach Group, and you can find them on Facebook. Got to plug them. We go out and we serve hot meals every Saturday night, and the Muncie crew does the same thing on Monday night. It's a healthcare issue. It's a affordable living issue. There's a lot of people who need social services who do not have the skills to acquire or the knowledge of where these social services are available. We might have them already established within our government, but we have no way of communicating to the people who live on the edge of the river that these services are available. There's no fixed answer. There really isn't. There's a lot of help. I'd like to see a lot of private groups go out and help the homeless. It's not really the government's job, but the government can make the laws more open for the homeless. We're throwing homeless off of government property. Okay, they'll stay along riverbeds because that's not city owned. That's government owned.
Okay.
We should be at least addressing the need for campgrounds in these areas with washing and cleaning facilities. We have parks everywhere. Okay. If you're homeless and you can't buy something, it's difficult to go to the bathroom. Okay. People will not let you in to go to the bathroom. There are just certain human rights that are lacking for people on the street, and we just need to bring attention to it. We need to help these people where we can and give them a leg up. You know?
Don, what's your view?
Well, I think, first of all, that it is a complex problem that has been really exacerbated by the fact that, first of all, here again, we have such a huge bureaucracy. There's so much money that is supposedly earmarked for certain, as you mentioned, social programs where the money never gets to the people. It's all chewed up in the bureaucratic game of government. We need to fix that. We need to go in and we need to find out where the money is being, where it's going, and why it's not going to help the people it really is supposed to be designed to help. Now, beyond that, we have the issue of government regulations that actually deter and discourage private nonprofits, whether they be faith-based or not, from going out and helping people. I have heard stories, and I'm sure you both have as well, of people going out to feed people and being told you can't do that. You don't have a license to serve food. Or, the police going out and tearing down a tent city where people are living. There is no, well, let's figure out how to solve this problem. It's just, well, we don't want these people here. It looks bad. And the reality is it's a tremendously complex situation because we've let it go for literally decades. And we've let government tell us that they're going to take more money out of our pocket, out of our paycheck, from our property taxes to go solve problem X. And as Ronald Reagan said, government is not the solution. Government is the problem. And the bureaucracy and the bloat and the glut and the fact that probably $9 out of $10 gets allocated to somebody who isn't really the person in need. And we need to fix that.
So the homeless issue is something that I know Bill's talked about throughout this campaign. And Don, when you were running for state rep or state senate, I think one of the biggest issues you talked about was the state's role in roads.
Right.
So I wanted to circle back to that and hear from you and how you view, we had a tax increase that came through on gasoline 2 years ago, and now you're starting to see a significant construction budget for the state. What is the state's role in roads to you? What do you think that, you would appoint as governor, the chairperson of NDOT, and you would obviously have significant influence over the direction and what happens. What do you think the future needs to look like for the state and the highway construction world?
Sure. And let me start by saying, although my project management experience has been in software development, not in road construction, One of the things that I think is fairly obvious to anybody who has any experience with project management whatsoever is that our state's management of vendor contracts leaves tons for improvement. We continually, if you just look at the State Road 37 project that hasn't even really kicked off yet, they got an approval for a certain amount of money. They've already come out and said, hey, we just totally blew the estimate. It's going to be tens of $millions more than what we expected. And it's because, they've got the Build Indiana Council over here providing all of these campaign funds for all of these folks in the General Assembly, who then turn around and make sure that there's money allocated for construction projects to be handed out by NDOT to the members of the Build Indiana Council. And nobody's managing these contracts. Nobody's holding our contractors to their estimates. Instead of fixed bids, what we do is we let these things go on and on and on. They submit change orders and they get approved. And a project that should take 3 months ends up taking a year and a half. And the taxpayers pay for that. And nobody's running up the red flag saying, hey, this has to stop. And I think this is part of the problem. I, personally, as a pragmatic libertarian, I believe that if I'm going to pay some taxes, then infrastructure is probably the one shared service that it makes sense that taxes would go to. But I want it done responsibly. I want people held accountable for what is spent and whether or not it's being done correctly. And I think that the future needs to be more accountability, more transparency, and we need to fix the vendor contract management within the state across the board.
All right, Bill, the roads. How do you view the governor's role in the roads?
The governor is in charge of assigning the head of the DOT. And rather than doing it as a favor seat to my buddy who's a political friend, I think it should be an engineer, somebody who knows about this business, a professional. We need to put professionals in there who can do exactly what he said, is to know the business, understand it, and know that 6 yards of concrete costs X amount of dollars, and that's what it costs installed when he gets out to do the bidding. We need a person who understands the industry to head up that department to bring it in together. It's just put the right person in the right position, and they'll do the right job for the people of Indiana.
So, if I can just, I apologize, but the only thing that concerns me about putting an industry professional in charge of a state agency is, again, their connection with all of the other industry professionals. So I would say that it would need to be someone who is able to oversee an agency, and I think this goes for any state agency. The people in charge have to be, you're right, they shouldn't be political appointees who were working on my campaign or who donated or whose brother's, sister's, uncle's, mailman's dog gave me $1 million or anything like that. But we need to make sure that the people who are overseeing state agencies and the responsibility of managing taxpayer dollars is done by people who can be absolutely unattached. I don't have any connection to anybody because that's the problem today. everybody's somebody's buddy. If you look back at the vaping issue from a few years ago, and the group of 7 college buddies who were able to corner the market on the vaping industry and get those licenses. That's what's wrong with government. And whether you call it corruption or the good old boy system, it all goes back to, if you will, the soapbox that Andy Horning is on. We've got corruption problems in our government, and we need to fix that.
Hallelujah. God love Andy. Holcomb gives it to us in a gift. He looks at everybody and goes, well, I have, $7 blah, blah million to run in my reelection. And it's like, dude, if you get reelected, the first thing you do is you got to pay back the $7 million worth of favors you got to get elected. You're not doing it for the people. You're doing it for the corporations because they got you there. We're libertarians. We want the people. We want the non-voters. We want the Democrats and Republicans to cross over.
So another big platform or plank in a traditional governor's daily life is economic development announcements. This last week we saw that the governor is involved with an announcement of Subaru having a big expansion in Lafayette. What's your view in the governor's office in the role of economic development? Should the state be spending money on a state economic development organization? Is it hey, let things happen naturally because you create an environment? Where should this be? I think we'll start with Bill this time.
All right. Eric has, I think, $1 billion in the state economic development fund. If we have it and it's existing, I suggest that we use it within the state of Indiana to build up the small businesses rather than going over to foreign nationals who we're at trade war with and have them bring their security, online security company to Indiana, give them a tax break.
Is this Infosys we're talking about?
Yeah.
Over on the west side?
Yeah. I mean, that's completely insane. I would rather see 1,000 local businesses get a $100,000 loan to help their businesses or a $100,000 tax abatement to help their business. If we're going to give it, let's give it in state for development of Hoosier businesses, not to where they're taking the profits out of state. That seems sort of pointless.
Don?
So, first of all, I don't believe that government should be in the business of business. I believe that there's a definitive conflict of interest when you're here again, if you go back to the idea that government is instituted to secure the rights of the individual, when government is focused on bringing new business into the state, then to me that seems like we're not creating an environment to make businesses want to come here. We're having to go out and bribe them. Exactly. We're giving them, please come to our state. Now, I propose that we eliminate the personal income tax in Indiana.
How would government exist without a personal income tax?
What do you mean? Government existed just fine without personal income tax before 1913. As a matter of fact, economically, we grew faster before the income tax. But the reality is if you just let's just take the concept of the personal income tax. Right now, the governor says that we are bringing more new jobs into the state than we have people to fill them. Okay, well, the simple solution to that is if you eliminate the personal income tax, people from Illinois, California, New York, who are being taxed out the wazoo, will be incentivized to move to Indiana and work here and live here. And if they don't have to pay income tax in the state of Indiana, then that money goes back in their pocket. They spend it. And when they spend it, they'll spend it on things that there is a sales tax on. So your sales tax base is increased, basically allowing for pretty much the same amount of money as you were getting from the income tax.
So you're saying that you're going to grow by increase population, more folks buy, so your sales tax remains the same, but you've eliminated the income tax.
Absolutely.
Then
you do the same thing with the property tax.
That was the other third major tax, and I was going to ask about is that you've got a 1%, 2%, and 3% tax cap that are in place.
Well, and the term cap is a lie because they reassess your property every year, and it keeps going up. And so what I've proposed is that we eliminate the personal property tax on people's primary residences in order to put more money back in their pocket. That will also completely eliminate the possibility of asset forfeiture, especially for senior citizens who've paid off their mortgage, but they still have to pay their property taxes every year. And one day they wake up and they can no longer afford to pay their property tax, and the sheriff is putting a notice on the door saying, we're going to sell your property at sheriff's sale. So we eliminate that by eliminating the personal property tax. We eliminate people who raise their children in a house that by the time the property taxes and the referendums that the school districts pile on top of them get to a certain point, they can no longer pay their mortgage payment. Because here again, when you buy a house or when you build a home, your mortgage payment is X. And you figure we can afford that. But when the assessment keeps going up and up and up and up,
you essentially never get rid of your mortgage.
And the mortgage just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and people are losing their homes, and it's wrong.
So, Bill, let's talk about your view on taxation in Indiana. You've got basically the big three that individuals deal with: property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes. What would a Levin tax plan look like in your first term? Assuming you have 51 votes in the state house on the House side and 26 on the Senate side.
Libertarian goal is to reduce taxes across the board. I am not qualified to give you a good answer right now because I haven't really pondered that thought, and it would have to be something I would have to study to give you a good answer on. So you caught me with my britches.
That's all right.
No, it's cool. I mean, all libertarians want less taxes, less government. This is the 101 of liberty. We need to go out there and we need to sell it to the non-voters. Okay. Right now is the time when we sell ourselves to the 80% of our state who doesn't vote. We have to be exciting. We got to be smashing, and we got to be full of liberty love and get the 80% of the voters excited about this run. Because right now, the normal person doesn't know politics worth a poo. They think the mayors do the highways and they think the governor does the sewers. So we need to lead as libertarians in a positive way that the common people of Indiana who never want to vote get excited about voting, and they jump up on our bandwagon and we go to a victory. So right now, that should be our main focus, is aiming at the 80% that don't have a home. Right now, we could house, as good libertarians, we could house all the homeless voters. We have 80% of our state that are homeless voters. Let's give them a home. Let's welcome them with open arms and smiles.
So let's talk about at the highest level. As libertarians, you want lower taxes,
yes,
and you want to start cutting the size and scope of government to pay for the lower taxes.
I want to establish a ballot initiative so the people of the state of Indiana have a choice about what's going on. But that would take 2 general assemblies.
What do you want to see cut or trimmed from Indiana's responsibilities as a state?
Personal income tax needs to be trimmed. I mean, millionaires don't get taxed, and the middle class and lower class get taxed out the wazoo. It needs to be repaired properly.
Don?
Well, so first of all, I think that it is troublesome that our governor likes to brag about the fact that we have over 50 state agencies in the state of Indiana. I believe the first thing that we need to do is we need to identify what is duplicitous in our state government. For example, we have NDOT, which handles the roads. We have the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which handles cars. Right. So those two administrative activities could probably be merged into one agency,
one unholy body. The Libertarians can run
yes, absolutely. Now, one of the things that we can do to start reducing both the overhead and the unnecessary taxation is if you're going to make people register their vehicle when they purchase it, that's when you do it. After that, this annual ritual of having to re-register and pay excise tax, and we do away with that. And people say, but that money's important. Yes, that money is what they use to pay to keep the Bureau of Motor Vehicles running. If you got rid of all of the unnecessary overhead of telling people they have to register every year, if you sell the vehicle, if it changes title, then you have the new person register.
So I'm a guy that's run for county office before, so I'm going to raise my hand as the guy that tried to be a county councilman and say, damn it, state government, you just stole my wheel tax, which pays for my county bridge fund. So if you're going to get rid of the annual registration, that there's $40 a year on every car that comes back to my county that pays for my county roads.
Okay.
So now my hand's out as a county commissioner and county councilman saying, you've just taken away my revenue ability. How am I as a county, I can only ask to tax and to pay for the things that I'm expected to provide by kissing the ring of the state. So you just took away my revenue. Now what do I do?
Well, so first of all, having run for mayor of Westfield last year, I will tell you that the first thing I'm going to tell the counties and the municipalities is if you would stop using tax increment financing districts to run up debt that you're going to have to pay for the next 25, 30 years, you might have money to pay for your bridge. But instead, you're paying developers to come in and build something that they're going to make a profit off of, but you're financing it for them with taxpayer money down the road. So let's fix the problem. Let's not whine because we're giving the individual their money back. It is not the individual Hoosier's responsibility to make sure that a commercial developer can afford to build a building that they're going to lease out and make millions of dollars off of. If they can't afford to build the building, they shouldn't be in that business. That's corporate welfare, and we don't believe in that.
Bill, what do you say?
I'm hearing TIF money falling from the sky. Say the question again.
I don't even know where we're at anymore. We've wandered a touch.
We've wandered.
But we started with
corruption.
How we're reducing the size. What we want to do, and then we got into TIF money and some of what Don's talked about here is. I'm in Henry County. I'm going to play class welfare here. You're talking about Hamilton County problems of new and upcoming and the massively developing communities.
But they do it in Marion County.
But the old, we'll say the Andersons, the Kokomos, the Muncies, the Newcastles that have less population than they did before, and you don't have the growth and investment. Sure. The TIFs aren't there as much. So I don't know that. That's the conversation.
What is Hamilton County going to give Indianapolis road money because you guys keep coming down to work on our roads? You come to Indianapolis all the time, work on our roads. Shouldn't we have a?
Yes, and we come down there and we eat in your restaurants and we pay your exorbitant ticket prices for your sporting events, and
that's not ours. So that's an independent businessman.
I've successfully taken the governor's debate and turned it into 92 counties pitted against each other. So I'm going to declare this a success.
No, to get back to your question, I really believe that it's a chicken or the egg type of question, right? And so one of the things that I've done is kind of branded this idea of the big government Pythagorean theorem, right? You've got the triangle of big government, which is taxation, debt, and spending. And if you want to reduce spending, the only way you do it is to reduce the debt, put a debt ceiling on, make it a hard debt ceiling that the General Assembly can't just come back and raise every time like Congress does. And then you cut taxation. If you want to, I don't know about you, but I could use to lose a few pounds. And the only way I'm going to do that is if I cut my caloric intake and my carbs. And taxation and debt are like calories and carbs. And I'm not going to be able to cut my weight, cut my spending, if I don't cut the other two first. Because if the government has $1, they'll spend it. And if they don't have the dollar, they'll borrow it in order to spend it. And the reality is that we have a Republican supermajority in this state and a Republican governor, and they're spending money like it's going out of style. And where Bill's correct in the fact that we definitely need to appeal to the 2 million voters who were registered in 2016 but didn't vote. There were 4.8 million registered voters in 2016 in the state of Indiana. Only 2.8 million of them actually cast a ballot. So there's 2 million people who didn't have a reason to vote. We need to find who they are and get their attention. But we also have Republicans and Democrats, or at least people who perceive themselves to be, who are disenfranchised and disillusioned with what they see going on. And they're looking for somebody to say, hey, we still stand for the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the principles of fiscal responsibility and individual freedom. And I believe those people will look at us and at least consider right now casting a vote for us. When I ran for mayor last year in Westfield, I actually had 91 people who came out to the polls and pushed the straight ticket libertarian button. And I don't understand that, because there's one libertarian on the ballot. It was me.
Yep.
But they came out to vote and voted straight, didn't vote for any of the Republicans. I think there's a disenfranchised feeling, and we need to tap into that.
So we're pushing the 75-minute mark here on our conversation.
Sorry.
It's fine. That's what we're here to do, is to talk. And I just want to wrap up a couple of items here, and I want to give you each a chance to talk about your campaign, and then I'll give you each a chance for some final thoughts to clean up anything that we left out or issues that you wanted to get to that I didn't. Bill, if you want to tell us a little bit about your campaign and the infrastructure and how you're ready to go from this point through to the general, and what your vision is for what your campaign's going to look like statewide from here to the end.
First off,
here in November.
Levin2020.org. We're up online, and wow, I have 117 volunteers right now. Many of them have never voted before, which is sort of cool. I mean, they're not Libertarian, Democrat, or Republican. It's like, I've never voted, but I'm volunteering for you, which is like, we had a team go out and distribute posters throughout the state. Posters and buttons are circulating throughout the whole state. I have a summer of concerts that I will be talking at, public events, car shows. Do you have any car people up here, by the way?
Of course. This is one of the very first.
When this is all over,
Newcastle, one of the very first car factories in the world was right here in Maxwell. The Maxwell was made here in Newcastle.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. When this is over, I got a car thing I got to talk to you about that's really sort of cool.
All right.
I'm going to be having libertarian booths at all these events. We're going to go out and just sing the song of liberty, and we're going to tell people we love them, and we're going to encourage them to vote. And we're going to do our best to get as many people on that bandwagon as possible. We have some incredible numbers. I keep, when the announcement came out that I was running for governor, I did not, say, hey, let's do this. This was a sneak attack by a local reporter who announced it. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, my phone started blowing up. And that caused for a chain of events, which was just ridiculous. High Times came in after that, and then Leafly came in after that, and then all sorts of other podcasts. I have tracked that I have made $113,000 worth of media in the last 90 days, just from one of the publicity firms. They ran me some numbers, which is pretty amazing, and it's a really positive response we're getting across the state. So, we're out there grinding. We're pushing, and we're going to have a great time. Earned media credit's a fabulous thing, and that's how libertarians travel.
Fantastic. Don, tell us about what the Rainwater governor's campaign will look like between now and in November, assuming you're the nominee.
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't had the time that Bill has had. I ran, as I've mentioned before, for mayor of Westfield up through November. This was something that several people talked to me about, and we decided to do actually at the beginning of February. So I am currently seeking the nomination from the party. I plan, if I get the nomination, to sit down with some folks, put together a campaign team. One of the things that here again, I've been talking to folks like Mark Rutherford and Jeff Maurer about engaging people who did not vote in the last cycle, that 2 million voters. Governor Holcomb got 1.4 million votes in 2016. So with 2 million untapped voters, we have an opportunity. I believe that one of the ways that we can reach them is through educating those folks about the mail-in absentee ballot program. The state gives us the ability to request an absentee ballot in the mail. They'll mail it to you. You can vote and mail it back in. And if the issue that people have with voting is getting up, going to a polling place, dealing with the stress of the polling place, this is an opportunity for us to engage some of those voters. My campaign will be focused on those three elements of reducing the size and scope of state government, securing the rights of the individual. Here again, I think that focusing on the fact that as libertarians, we believe in the sovereignty of the individual and that there is no more important identity than the uniqueness of an individual, and that government needs to work for everybody, and then putting money back in people's pockets.
Very good. Is there anything else that we've left off here? This is our traditional final thoughts portion of the program here on Boss Hog, where it's your chance to pitch something. It's your chance to say, hey, here's how you volunteer for me. Say, hey, dummy, you didn't ask me about this issue, and it's really important, and we needed to talk about it. This is your catch-all opportunity. We'll start with Bill, and then we'll wrap up with Don. If there's anything else we've forgotten that we needed to get to.
There's a million things, but we don't have the time.
Oh,
All right. I love you. Thank you very much for having us here in this very cool studio. Look, for those of you who can't see this, This is really a nice studio. They got lighting rigs on the floor. They got lighting, and they got soundproofing on the walls with lights over here. This is a real professional studio. When they first said, "Hi, come in for our podcast," I was thinking, kitchen table. No. This is an outstanding room. And okay, hold on. Let me address the libertarians.
You're extremely kind.
Let me address the libertarians. Libertarians out there who are watching this, these guys got the coolest clubhouse in the world up here. They have a production studio, and then they have a dining room and hangout room and meeting room. You need to come up here and visit. It's just a fantastic facility. Anyway, there's the pitch for the room.
There we go.
I really dig it.
Don.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to ask you for your vote at the state convention on March 7th. Obviously, you have a choice here. We've given you a couple of options. I think that Bill and I have both given you some diversity of thought, and I would like to have your vote on March 7th if you're a delegate to the state convention. My website, you can find it at 3 different URLs, donrainwater.com, donaldrainwater.com, or rainwater, 4, Indiana.com. Go out, take a look. If you've got questions, hit the contact link, and of course, hit the issues. You can see my take on all of the issues. And if you feel so disposed, hit the donate button, give us a donation. We could definitely use it.
Very good. I thank each of you for joining us tonight. We're very happy to have you on the program. Once again, if you want to come out to the Libertarian Convention and be a part of the process, lpion.org is where anybody that's watching can buy a ticket to come out to the convention, and then
we're flogging convention tickets to the public.
Of course. Well, I mean, you can people can come join.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a moment here. Do you want to come to one of the coolest conventions in the world? Well, we're going to have it coming up right here on March 7th and 8th at the
Eastside Marriott.
At the Eastside Marriott in Indianapolis. You'll love it. It's got a lot of fun, and we're going to have pirates. I love you. I'll see you there this next weekend.
You can join the party at any time. Whether or not you get to vote in the convention, that's questionable and will be determined at that time. But you can definitely buy a ticket and attend and be a part of the process.
Yeah, it's a very absolutely. Cool thing. And there's a candidate meet and greet on Friday evening at 6 p.m. There at the Marriott East at 21st and Shadeland in Indianapolis. You can come out and take a few minutes to ask us individually some questions. Many of the presidential hopefuls are also going to be there, so you can meet with them as well. And then Bill and I will be reprising our act here at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning.
You get to be good buddies throughout this process. You meet up and have the conversation.
We have seen each other at several locations and spoken frequently over the last couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you both for being here, and
thank you for having me.
Of course, we'll have more evergreen programs on the Boss Hog between now and when we come back for our live shows. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at wearelibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to wearelibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.